Well, ladies and gentlemen, after some technical issues and a move around in the Wi-Fi of her ever expansive castle in Henderson, we
Ooh.
have Colleen back. There she is, ladies and gentlemen. Not
Hi,
pixelated, not back from Tibet. So, all
and
right,
not back from Tibet.
not back from Tibet or back from Tibet, something like that.
No,
Yeah.
okay.
She was over in Tibet. That's why we couldn't see her really well. She was talking with the Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama is getting ready to list his property and wanted to chat up with Colleen as to how we're going to digitally market it. Because that's what today's episode 84, is about today.
Yeah, let's get down to marketing and how we do it. That would be our best bet.
Exactly. All right, Colleen. So, did you add any flavor savers like nut pods or Kahlua to your
I do the nut
coffee this
pods
morning?
every morning.
Okay.
Every morning, the nut pods is what goes in my coffee because I really do like it. And
Yep.
again, it's dairy free.
Okay.
So I just did a regular old coffee with nut pods.
Perfect. Perfect. So today, you and I were chatting about this because we talked about it yesterday about how we market properties and how we get our clients on their goals. Because I think people, you and I feel like, okay, we need to get some of this message out because people don't understand, and you've got to kind of look at these things in these perspectives from the selling listing side. And this last week, we had 3 new listings. Um, two of them, late last week, but all 3 of them were under contract. Now, one did fall out of contract because the buyer decided to not proceed, so we're back on the market again. But again, we have new showings scheduled in under 8 hours from relisting it. So again, we feel pretty confident we're going to put that under contract again. But we seem to, with what we do, our results kind of speak for themselves with regards to price point, days on market, and key items that our sellers are really appreciative of.
There's one thing I want to go back to when you say the one that fell out of contract within what 24 or 48 hours of an accepted contract.
Yep.
That happens.
Yeah, they do.
And in this market right now,
Yep.
um, there are certain issues with people from trying to impress a seller and get their offer accepted.
Yes.
They'll kind of add to the beauty of the offer, so to speak. And sometimes they fall out because they were unreal expectations. It's kind of that simple.
Right.
So we're in a fun market where you and I have to sit down with every single property. Not that we wouldn't have, but boy, it's deep now, and go over every what if. How
Exactly.
do we?
And I think there's some people thinking, there's the iBuyers that sometimes come in and write a check. Now, I'm understanding from some research, the iBuyers, which are the online companies that are like giving you instant offers, they're not quite instant offering. They're definitely dealing with a fraction of the properties now because they're still really nervous about holding on to these with regards to COVID. Because they dumped them the last time around, they canceled contracts, so they're a little gun shy right now. And also, too,
Hmm.
yes, we are in a market where inventory's low. There's a strong demand for home and inventory, but it doesn't always translate into just stick a sign in the ground or just put it up on Zillow and you're done. There's more to it than that.
Oh, there's so many more mechanics behind it, but it's kind of a compliment when people think that it went that easy.
Right.
You know
Exactly.
what I mean? There's a
And
lot more to.
And
Yeah.
to your point, when you're dealing with a professional team like ourselves, you're you're expecting it to go easy, and that's what we're here for. You're not expecting it to go. Okay, look, we are bringing you on for your experience, your knowledge, your processes, not to make it a bumpy ride.
Yeah, yeah. This is
It's like buying
it's an emotion.
a Mercedes S class. Okay, if you're going to spend $100,000 on a Mercedes S class, you don't want to feel like, good God, I feel every pothole or every bump in the road,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. No, and I think that's any professional's job is to, as much as in their power,
Yep.
make it as seamless and as smooth a transaction or a ride
Mm-hmm.
as we can make it. And then
Exactly.
behind the scenes, we've got to do all the work. So look at us like the HGTVs or whatever it is that they do when they, remodel a house. You don't see all the stuff that's going crazy behind the scenes, but it looks really good, and you're happy when it's done.
So I liken this. So you know me with regards to food, and I want to kind of get into some key stats right after this. You know me with my analogies, restaurants. So one of my favorite restaurants, Le Cirque at the Bellagio, and Le Cirque,
Mm,
like the circus. So it's like a circus. It's one of the most beautiful, lovely restaurants, French cuisines. The Mascioni family, Le Cirque out of New York, at the Bellagio. You know, easily top 3 or 4 restaurant in town. Um, we always joke when you look at the desserts and you look at the presentations and you look at the flavors that the restaurant staff, the kitchen staff, are doing cartwheels or doing circus acts, like Cirque du Soleil in the
yeah,
kitchen that winds up on your plate.
yeah.
And that's kind of
So
what we
when
do.
Yeah, so maybe we'll go over some of those tactics or those ways that we do this. Some of our um, I mean, every time we get a listing, the first time, or if even we're just talking about, we can start from the minute that somebody is looking to
Yep,
list.
exactly. So yeah,
Boom.
let's dive into that. So the minute we get a call from somebody saying, okay, whether it's part of your network, my network, somebody finds us on the internet, we get a lot of agent referrals from out of, or looking. Or I'm sorry, or some referral saying, okay, hey, we'd like to sell our property. The first thing we need to know, okay, well, what's the address? Because we need to know about the property. We need to know where it's at, what part of town, things of that nature. And we'll probably do like an initial pre-listing phone call just to gather some initial data on it, right? And then so
Yeah,
the next thing we do, like you said, is so we get the address, we confirm the tax record, we understand the square footage. Now sometimes the square footage may be off. You're dealing with one right now. Number of,
yes.
especially with tract homes, a builder may register a bunch of homes as being a 5-bedroom 3-bath, but this particular one may be a 4-bedroom 4-bath because of how it was optioned out. So we need to confirm some of those things.
Yeah,
Um,
that's the first thing.
yeah. So
Yes.
so we get an idea, and then Colleen, the next thing you're doing, you're looking at comparable sales.
Yeah, yeah. Once we know the home,
Mm-hmm.
then as you well know, Don and I go over into the MLS what is on the market, what's on the market under contract, what's sold, what's the history, and you go around that area and we go as wide as we need to or as close as we need to, just depends on anything we can find that is that model match or close.
Yeah.
And now you start breaking down those numbers. Why is
Exactly.
it this price? Why
Yeah.
did it sell for that price? Why is this one that way, that one's not? So now we've just kind of combed through everything we can think of that this house has or doesn't have compared to the other things that are in the market, on the market, the other homes.
Right.
And why we're really trying to figure out what an appraiser is going to look at
Mm-hmm.
and give credit for, and then you try to figure out what's the market bearing and what are people paying for
Exactly.
or
And
not are not paying for.
right. No, you're exactly right. And your comment on, we're kind of looking at this with a view towards an appraiser. And one thing you and I do, we as much as we can, is we meet with the appraiser. We are not there to influence in any way, shape, or form, but we're there
You
to say
can't.
hi. Um, we're there to provide and make available information because that's important, because they may need to know what uh, what houses were used in factoring in the price of this house, and so were those reasonable? In a lot of cases, the appraiser may have those same properties on their list, or may had not saw one that did recently close. The other thing too, what the owner put into the house as far as upgrades and enhancements, and when they put them in too.
Yes.
So
Yes. And that is a big point.
yeah,
You might have put something in, for example, our home that we just sold.
yes,
We knew it was time for pool plaster.
right,
we have a pool, but when you have a pool that's 14 or 15 years old, there's a factor on all those things that you put into a home.
Mm-hmm.
There's an age factor that says, you may have that, however,
Yes.
it's not today's, or it's not AC units. I mean, there's a bazillion and one things you look at in order to come up with value, and what the market's bearing. There are some that are not updated, but they're in a location, or they're a floor plan, or there's something about them that's going to give them more value than the one that's completely and totally updated 3 streets over. So I mean,
Absolutely.
I'm getting ahead of myself, but there's so many different things.
Yeah, exactly. And we could go down on pricing and appraisals a lot, but the simple fact is, for today's episode, we're meeting with appraisers. We have continuing education with people that are appraisers. So they're going to speak to us and give us ideas of what they're looking for, what has changed, and because certain things change in the market. I remember you and I were at an appraisal seminar earlier, or lunch and learn earlier this year, and we talked about, because of pre-COVID, there was less of a, I wouldn't say a penalty, but there was a less of a price difference from a house that backed up onto a street than one that didn't. I remember that was part of the conversation. Now, that used to be a greater factor, but because we're up on these things, we can then begin to put together a picture strategy, a pricing strategy for this property.
Right, correct. Yeah. And it's what's going to appeal to the buyer,
right,
or the people out there that are looking, as well as what's going to appeal to the appraiser.
Yeah, exactly.
Because those don't always align.
Yeah.
And
no, you're right. And the other thing too, we also look for, I like to kind of call it, is there an X factor in the home? Is there something that the home has that is extremely desirable in its market segment price point that would justify the price positioning we put it at?
Yes, absolutely. So now that we've done all of that combing through of information and kind of gathering and seeing what's realistic out there. However, I think, to backtrack, the first thing we need to do is find out the expectations of the seller.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? You kind of gather all this information, but we really need to know what the expectation of the seller is. Is it a realistic expectation?
Yep.
Where did it come from? Is it an emotional, or is it a business? Is it, you know what I mean? There's so many factors that come in.
Absolutely.
Play with the people
and
selling.
Timing as well, because there's sellers that says, I don't have a rush. Well, that actually is kind of a self-defeating theory, because the average house on 57% of all homes are sold in 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
And like 75-80% are sold in 60. So if you're not in a rush and you're like, okay, I'm going to sit out there for 6-8 months, you've missed the boat.
You don't know what's going to happen in 6 to 8 months, number one. And the excitement of that home, that particular home coming on the market, is a big pushing force to viewing.
Absolutely. And we can use all kinds. I mean, a house on the market has key dates: the date it was listed and today's date. And the further it gets along, I always like to use a fish analogy. Fish off the boat, that's the most attractive, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or you can look at anything with an expiration date or an age.
Yeah, exactly.
And you go, okay, if you're buying something from the store that has a date, you're going to get the one you want, the newest,
right?
The freshest. So yeah,
exactly. And ultimately, for our sellers, and as a seller, and this is speaking to them out there right now, is if you're looking to sell and you're wanting to sell, as Colleen mentioned, we need to understand the expectations that are coming from our sellers, but we also need to understand their goals. What is the sale of this property translate for them? Is this they're just wanting to sell it because they're going to move in with family because of a life change? Are they using it for the down payment on another property? Are they wanting to free it up to buy investments? And also, too, when is a reasonable time they would like to execute on that? Because ultimately, if you're thinking like, okay, it'll sell when it sells, and I'll do what I want to. As a seller, you're kind of ceding control to the market to tell you what to do versus your opportunity based on pricing, marketing, timing, and expectations, where you can sort of set your timetable up a little more reasonable.
Right. So then now we know what we're up against. That's when we start going, how do we market it?
Yeah, exactly. And so when we talk, and so that's as Colleen said, so if we are sitting with Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we're going to look at the comps. Now, in our strategy, everyone's got a little different approach. I mean, in pricing a home, there's sort of three general broad strategies: below market value, at market value, and above market value. Now, in some cases, the below market value makes sense because you can drive multiple offers that then drive the price up and create a frenzy. In certain situations, we see that apply. At market value, if the house does not have some type of X factor or something in there that really sets itself apart from the other houses, that's probably where we're at, plus or minus. And then above market value, if it's got an X factor, or we're always willing to take a look at the market and see how it will, how this house will present itself, and we'll find out pretty quickly. Would you agree
Pretty
with
darn
that?
quickly, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he is very much so. If gosh, there's so many factors that I don't want to bore everybody, but there is a strategy to figuring out where should we price this for your goal.
Yep.
And sometimes it's not realistic. We're asked to price things in a point where they aren't, and that's where we have to be honest with the seller and say, we're going to try this. Here's what we see.
Mm-hmm.
This is what our expertise tells us. Our experience tells us this.
Yes.
However, if this is what you would like to try, here's what we see might happen. Let's try it. Now, what are the other factors? The other factors are, number one is appraisal if there's going to be a loan.
Yep.
Okay, number two is the ability or the desire for somebody to come in with cash that's different between appraised value and the actual agreed upon price.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all negotiations afterwards. But this is honesty with the seller.
Mm-hmm.
The number that you're asking for, length on market. Okay, how long are you okay with this number being there? Because if that same number sits there, the answer is, we also deal with buyers, and what's the most common thing we hear? How long has it been on the market? Do they really need to sell? Can we get them to take less?
Mm-hmm.
That's normal for a buyer, right? So you look at a listing that you're going to price in a certain category or area that may sit there longer. Then you have to go, okay, what time frame are you willing to say, let's freshen this up?
Yes.
And represent it if this doesn't happen, if this doesn't work.
Yep.
So that's the first step, because everybody wants top dollar and more for their house. I mean, that's normal. We want it for you too.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, no, we want it as well. And that's why, as a team, so we're both looking at it from two couple of different views and perspectives. And that's one of our benefits as the Cramer group, presenting and looking at these things with two realtors versus, in most cases, one agent. And
because literally every deal we have, Don, we confer, we talk, we make sure we bounce things. I mean, it's not just a team with people that are off doing their own thing.
Yep.
It's a team with the two people that you and I look over every single buy or sell.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah. So then it gets down to, okay, our marketing plan, which is, we're slightly different than it was pre-COVID, but for the most part, our services were already in place, and we lead with a very digital centric marketing plan, because the vast majority of buyers out there are searching on one of the major platforms or a website or an app that they have on maybe a smart device.
Mm-hmm.
And so in order to do that, then this gets back to you and I were chatting about it yesterday. It's how do you stand out in the crowd? So, and that's where our horsepower comes to bear. Because if we're looking at the home, we're looking at positioning it to sell, we're looking to maximize top dollar for the property. We're looking to make sure that we've done the homework where we have confidence in its ability to appraise. We bring together then the resources to source those buyers that are most interested in your property to stick out. And it's like I kind of use the again, here's Don with food again. I'm always talking about food. It's you're down an aisle, ladies and gentlemen, when you're down an aisle of a supermarket, and I don't care if it's the cereal line or the bag of chips line, you have to ask yourself, okay, there's 4 or 5 rows high. Based on who you're going after, what bag of chips are you going to go after? Now, yeah, you've got certain brands you like, but you know what? There's a reason why supermarkets position certain brands at eye level versus certain brands at a lower level. And it also
Mm-hmm.
doesn't necessarily always mean about price. It could be that the little ones are looking at the ones down below and say, ooh, I want
Yeah.
that one, than the
Yeah.
healthy one sitting up above.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's a
Yeah.
strategy behind it.
So
That's for sure.
exactly. And so again, Colleen and I step back, we're looking at the strategy, and it's not just photos, video, 3D tour, and all that. Those are the tool sets. That's the bag of tools we're bringing and executing. We do that at a high level because of our professional photographer team of that nature. However, how we execute those are part of our strategy because we're trying to look for various things that will appeal to that core buyer, because that's the thing. We will determine who that core buyer is. Who is Mr. and Mrs. Buyer?
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. That's who we have to appeal to.
Exactly, and we want to maximize the number of Mr. and Mrs. Buyers. If we can easily take a home, for better or worse, to do some photography, things of that nature, and then just kind of roll the dice. But again, for our sellers, we want to provide as much control over the situation as possible in the sales process. So we're going to put up the imagery, the information, the verbiage. The verbiage is also key, the description, things of that nature that appeal to that core buyer, and then sort of like rings out from there.
There's a lot that is now available that wasn't as well. So I've had to broaden my comfort zone, if you will,
Yep.
because what you're looking at is not just, and I'll go back 5 years, 7 years. You took pictures,
Yes.
you put in the blurb in the MLS, and then you tried to figure out the postcards you could send out, and you tried to figure out how you could continue to market in different ways that just now, today, there's so much more available videos, the pictures, the drones, the again the talk over videos that you can put out. So it's not just a quick, okay, every 2 weeks or every 1 week I'm sending out an email on an email blast on the internet to all the realtors.
Yep.
I'm gonna send out a postcard. You still do all those things. That's not it. But there's a lot we can do now to showcase and make things way more attractive. The other thing that I think I skipped, and I apologize, is when we speak to our sellers prior to selling, there's a brutally honest time where we sit down and say, this is what's going to give the best look.
Yep.
Just like you said, the displays in the supermarket.
Right.
We have to be honest with people. It doesn't mean we're the most liked in the beginning, but it's the most effective, and we know that.
Exactly. I mean, it is about marketing. So if you're going to market a property, you're going to market a car, you're going to market a bag of chips. How you package it, how you present it, and how you set that up is mission critical. So again, to you, Mr. or Mrs. Future Seller out there, if you're looking at your house, you know, things like paint, things like flooring, but then also things like clutter,
Hmm.
things like the closets. If the closet is a nice walk-in closet, but it's stuffed to the gills where you have to actually force things apart to pull something out, well, you know what? We've got experts that can come in and consult with you to optimize the look. And we're going to
Hmm.
kind of give that the walk around and suggestion, because if we can show a nice large closet, but it's beautifully arranged, that will make it more sellable and more marketable than a closet or something that's just stuffed to the gills as storage. You may not think about it that way, but again, it's about the marketing of the property and who we're marketing it to. And so we need to be on our best behavior. We need it to be the show pony, like you said, to stand out. If you're not the
But
show pony, then I don't know what to tell you.
we're going to take phenomenal photos. We're
Right.
going to invest in a lot of the best that we can do to present that house to the world,
Yep.
as well as the world seeing that house as a place they'd want to be.
Exactly.
So the calmness, I will say to you, the when you see a pool and you see a little floaty and a drink, you go, if you saw a pool with icicles hanging off of it and dirt in the bottom, you're not going to want to go in. But
Right.
boy, when you see a pool that says "Come join me," it makes you want. Okay, so there's a subliminal, kind of a subconscious message that is first impression esque. I walk in and I want to be here. I
Exactly.
walk in and I go, oh dear Lord, I can't see it. You know what I mean? So
Right.
there's a reason we would say let's make it. And you said something that made me laugh, and I'll tell you why. When you said the clutter, the fun part about decluttering, or the funny part about decluttering, is sometimes when you take away the clutter, you expose scars. You
Yeah.
expose areas that we will have to address to
Yeah.
make sure that they're not a focal point
Mm-hmm.
in a negative fashion. And that's another one of the things we will sit down with a seller and say, this is honest, because this is what people are going to see once we move this aside. We have to make this look new, or look like it's been taken care of, or look like whatever the case is. Case in point, latest listing was simple thing, the carpet in the master closet.
Yep.
Everything was immaculate. But she said, we just haven't addressed that carpet because it wasn't high on our priority.
Right.
Change out the carpet in the master closet. Very inexpensive. And once they did that, that whole master looked new.
Absolutely. Just a small
So those
change.
kinds of things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, when you're moving things around, you're decluttering. Like you said, there may be some bumps or bruises or warts that may be exposed, and that is
Mm-hmm.
going to, whether you do it today or you do it under contract or offer or something of that nature, it will show itself.
Yeah, and it will get more people will want to come look, or feel like there's less to do and a lot more care taken,
Yep.
if that makes any sense. So it's just, we're going to ask top dollar. It is a seller's market, but you don't necessarily want it to be a seller's market where somebody says, I don't want to offer that because it needs so much.
Exactly. Exactly. And we're dealing with too. I mean, and it also changes based on different price points as well. When we our two latest listings, they're in the mid luxury segment. They're plus 600,000.
Hmm.
So when you look at uh, those, there's also buyer expectations. So when you're moving up the ladder, what you're delivering from a qualitative standpoint has has to be commanded there.
Justified
Yeah.
in the buyer's mind.
Now this now what's interesting though, and I kind of want to dive into our two most recent, which is 30 Plum Hollow and 1824 Madera Canyon, because
Hmm.
we implemented similar digital marketing strategies, but the houses were presented differently. And so let's chat about those two real quick. So
Okay.
1824 Madera Canyon under contract. It had its X factors. Really nice neighborhood. It's on the Summerlin trails, things of that nature. But this was a very distinctly decorated, designed property.
Hmm. Yes. Like, done well, very
Yes,
well, but
done to a very
very distinct.
high look, exactly. And the good news
Hmm.
is too, when you saw it as well as I did, when our photographer team came in, because of the ones we choose, they weren't of the group going, "What do I do with this?" They're like, "This is fun. This is exciting." And that's the
They
other
did the
thing
first
too.
thing they said, "Wow, look at this. This is really fun."
Yep.
So,
So we're going to go through. So we're meeting with our photographer team. We're meeting with our video team. On site. We've already had pre-discussions with them as to what we're looking for, but we're guiding them through as to what photos are important, what we feel are important as the ones, because not every we may shoot 90 photos, but we're only going to maybe use about 50 of them.
we can only use
We can
50.
only use 50 of them from the MLS, but then we can still add more through our own website, stuff like that.
Yes.
But we want to look at those things, and we also do, because of this particular house, we also implemented twilight photos with them, because
Hmm.
they had an outdoor area that was beautifully lit. It had a balcony space. It was on the park area, so we could maximize that presentation.
Yes. All of it.
Yeah,
What is your best angle?
exactly.
You know, when you take a picture, I said this to someone the other day, when you have your photo taken and
Yep.
you pay somebody to take your photo, which ones do you want? The ones that make you look your best or whatever?
Exactly. Well, the one with the broccoli hanging out of the.
Yeah, do I have that? No, I'm
No.
kidding.
So again, that was a furnished property, distinctly decorated. We went with it. We maximized that look. We maximized the verbiage, the presentation. So we embraced it. So it was still beautiful. It was still neatly arranged. It was still presentable, and we maximized it. We had an offer originally within 24 hours. That one didn't go through, but within 8 days later or 9 days later, we had another offer that the sellers were excited about, and the buy. It looks like all systems go.
And we had a lot of traffic on it. I
Yep.
mean, it was presented both from the seller and from our efforts
Yep.
quite well. It
Exactly.
really shows beautifully.
Yeah. We had a lot of quality prospective buyers come through. And so, and two, from a price point standpoint, when this closes, this will be the highest comp in that community,
Yes.
and breaking a price point barrier. And again, so
Hmm.
we've controlled the situation. We've delivered a house in under contract in under 10 days. The sellers can now turn into buyers, because they're already ready to start moving on to their next chapter. It's not to say that they pull the trigger yet, but they can start planning out what they want to do next, instead of
Yes.
waiting for the day to arrive, which could be in Never Never Land.
So the way we would compare that listing to the Plum Hollow listing, 30
Yep.
Plum Hollow,
Mm-hmm.
totally different approach to the photography, because this is a house that is neutral, neutral, neutral,
Yep.
empty, empty, empty.
Yep.
Okay. There weren't any personal
So
items in the house.
unfurnished, empty,
Hmm. Totally empty. But
and
went through and touched up everything, fixed
exactly.
every. I mean, it. You could see yourself move in there.
Mm-hmm.
You just had to be creative of what it would look like.
Right.
Correct. So we did the photography the same way we did, not the same way, with the same thought process as
Yep.
we did Madera Canyon that's all full and decorated to the nines. But then you turn around and go, okay, what can we do to give people an idea what this would look like?
Right. Absolutely. So, and I
Which,
remember because the seller, who I happen to know,
hmm,
yeah, who would be
hmm,
Vu, we're walking through, and this is the thing, and Mr. and Mrs. Seller, future seller out there, again, Colleen Schaefer, my partner of the Cramer Group, 20-year real estate agent, hundreds of properties. She's gonna, like I asked her when I sold one of my previous homes.
hmm,
I want you to come over because I want the fresh set eyes. I want the objectivity. So we objectively went through the property after moved out.
hmm.
And I
It was empty.
remember
We were gone.
you were empty, you were gone. You're already in new place. But it was repainted and you're like, okay, what's left to do? And we went through the house and there were things that you still want to do and you're discerning because you understand how to sell that property and how to market that property, and you're looking at and going, okay, these are the big block and tackle items, you've already taken care of those, these are the pieces, this is as far as you're going to go, okay, it makes sense. Now we're going to maximize that look and feel.
Correct. That's where I deferred to you and said, okay, how do we? Because when it's a personal item,
Yep.
okay, and I'm saying this so that maybe it will translate to people that are listening. I am an agent. I've been through this a million times. And
Yep.
when it's my own home, okay, there are things that you become attached to and expect, and there are things that you become, at least I do, and I think everybody does, you become more insecure about. Your job, Don, as my agent,
Yep.
was to come in and be honest with me and say, we have to downplay this, or it's going to look like that's the entire, and that's not the entire house.
Right.
We need to upplay this because this is what people are going to get drawn to, and then they can come feel this home themselves.
Absolutely.
So that was, remember, we went from the outside in the front
Mm-hmm.
through the house all the way to the outside in the back, and you gave me a ton of things that you went, if this, then that.
Yep.
Just things, throw it out there, and then I got to choose what I felt I was willing to do.
Yep.
And the things that I said I wasn't going to do, you remember we had some talks. And this is, again, I'm saying this because as agents, this is our job.
Exactly.
You sat down and said, I want to talk to you about those few things that you and your husband are saying, I don't think it makes a difference, because it might. And your set of eyes saw it.
Right.
We didn't, because we've been there the whole time. I mean, we've done a lot of things to the house. And it was, a thing where my husband was going, we've done all we're going to do.
Right.
The last little things that we did, we ended up with 2 offers in 24 hours, actually within 9 hours, 4 hours. I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't think it was even 12 hours. And you had a lot of showing requests. I mean, it blew up. And the other thing, too.
But it presented perfectly. It just presented perfectly.
And the other piece, like you said, because of our strategy and such, this was an unfinished home. Colleen had it painted neutral. It wasn't grays, but it was a beautiful kind of a greige, kind of a gray beige.
Mm-hmm. Could go either way.
So that's the key. It's like, okay, well, and we get this a lot. Well, what color should we paint this? Because we don't know what the buyer's going to go. Well, again, ladies and gentlemen sitting out there, it's a simple answer. We'll go and look at the models of price point homes that are similar to yours, find out the paint color, and that's what you paint it. Because they're doing the research. I mean, you painted it there. We also then highlighted all the key elements of the house. Again, and we not just highlighted the house, we highlighted the community it's in. It's in a guard-gated community, golf course. It's got this beautiful lot position, and you had a great backyard and these visuals. So we wanted to create various visual sight lines and tell a story of the property. And then because the property was empty and there was a concern about it being blah because of the neutralness, which I go, it still showed right. It still photographed right. We go with a company that virtually stages the house. So that saves sellers a lot of money from physically staging a house, and there's some cases for a physical stage, but we use a service that we have a vendor to virtually stage a house, and we virtually stage the living room, dining room, the master suite, the owner suite, and the family room to give
Yes.
people perspective of furniture in the space. And so we showed an
Yeah,
empty situation and a virtually staged situation, so people could see that cleanly.
Mm-hmm.
There's no smoke and mirrors.
No, and it's ideas. It gives people the idea of what they could do to the home.
Exactly.
That's the big part. I understand staging, real staging,
Yep.
but the virtual staging, you can choose the flavor, if you will. Do you want it contemporary? Do you want it traditional? Do you want it, so you can kind of go to the house itself and go, well, give it a little bit of this and a little bit of that, so people can kind of see how they could make it their own. So I love it.
Yeah, exactly. We don't have to stage every room in the house. We just staged the main key rooms. And again, this is where we're making these investments because as a team, we are taking on the marketing. So you've got agent choices where, okay, they're going to take on the marketing and you're going to enter in an agreement, and they may just decide to do photos because of one way, shape, or form. But we are certainly not the least expensive.
No.
Because we are making a full investment into the marketing of the property. So from the photo, from the video, from the virtual staging, from the paid social media posts, from the flyers, from the just listed, that is all our toolkit we're bringing because it's budgeted into our cost for our services that sellers do not incur until the house sells.
Yes.
Because that's coming out of our commission, right? So a lot of our
it was going to clear that up. That is included in our services.
It's
is
not
the
on
point.
top.
No, it's part of what we do.
Right.
So it's not just a simple. I'm going to make us laugh, but I was going over with our sellers from Madera Canyon last night about homes they were looking to purchase. They're going to downsize a little bit and possibly build.
Right.
So, okay, now we're in a different
mode.
Yeah, a completely different animal that we're looking at and trying. So it was interesting to me because regardless of the size or price of the home, Dawn, there are things we're going to do no matter what. And some of these, as you and I have done before, when you go to photograph a room, sometimes we will pick things up and put them in the other room and clear them off and put them in a garage. And then once the pictures are done, we'll bring the things back in. And there were so many that she looked at me, started laughing. She goes, "Is that a T-shirt on the back of the toilet in the bathroom?"
Yes.
And the yes.
Gets back to that staging and photography.
So it doesn't matter the size or the price. It's still somebody's home or investment or both.
Yep.
So the time and effort that we take, we give equal to all. Exactly. To make sure that it's presented in its best light.
Absolutely. I mean, here, good example. Again, let's go back to the chips thing. So you got the bag of chips. Sometimes they put on the little extra shelf, like the dip and the queso.
The Doritos dip or the yeah.
Okay.
The bean Fritos.
So let's say, for example, God forbid, somebody opened one of those cans of dip, put a chip in there, and then some of the chip dip fell on the bag.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to, Mr. or Mrs. Buyer, or Mr. or Mrs. Seller, are you going to think about okay, are they going to pick the bag with the dip dripping off of
the goop on it?
The goop on it. Or are they going to go 3 or 4 down and pick the clean, neat, pristine one?
Yeah, it's basically what's always left is the stuff nobody wanted.
Exactly. So again, it's about care and consideration, and like you said, it's the hard, honest truth. We'll even an immaculately presented house, we may move some things around and take them out to the garage, like you said, because we want to emphasize certain things, and we don't want somebody's fixtures, furnitures, decorations to cloud that buyer, because you know what? That buyer is not inheriting that. You, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, are taking that with you. You're selling, you're donating. But
And
what they are
just
inheriting is the
sorry.
countertops and all that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
To button that segment, because I know we get lost in it sometimes. The answer is it doesn't show as well. It looks cramped, and people feel like there's not enough room for their stuff.
Exactly.
So you want to make it wide open, and they're going to feel like this house always stays nice. Now, it's a magical, mystical thing, and I understand that, but it is a subliminal thing that when you walk into a home, that's why models and things, you'll walk into some models and you go, I breathe deep and I say, wow. And then sometimes you walk into a model and you go, there's too many things going on. What'd they do here?
Right.
You really want to keep the brain on an open, flowy, I can see myself here and nicely here. The bones of the house are the biggest deal, no matter what you do. But if you're going to show, let's show it to where it's very comfortable for everyone, and it doesn't seem like it's too small for people to live in.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
that's all.
And so, kind of going back on Plum Hollow. Okay, so we use similar tools. We altered it a little bit because of the property. We brought in additional tools, which was our virtual staging service, to present it. We also worked through the pricing because of you as a seller. You and your husband had a distinct plan of what you wanted that house to be sold for, or when you wanted it sold.
Me too. The amount is obvious. That's everybody wants the most they can get. But we also said we don't want it to sit out. We know, being you and I have talked, the market, we could have played it a little bit higher, if you will, or a little bit more on the, I want to get everything I can, but we ended up getting more than, we could have pushed it, but we ended up getting everything we wanted, and then a better deal, in my opinion, on ours, because there were people that were looking at it multiply, and after all, they were willing to do the things that some might not, because it was showing perfect. I mean, it was move-in ready.
Exactly.
So you tell me what you think.
No, you're exactly right. So we could have priced it 2 or 3% more, and that was kind of where we were originally at. But we also knew what the comps were. We didn't have a lot to choose from, and they swung widely. I mean, there was a $200,000 swing from 2 model matches within 1,000 feet of your house. Again, $200,000 swing. Now, yours gravitated towards the higher price one, but as you said, there was, you and I, we analyzed it. We knew there were some features about that house that would allow it to justify that price point. So we adjusted for those. So we brought it down to where we were in that 2 to 3 percentage point range. But you wanted it sold You wanted it sold and off of your hands quickly, because you had already moved on, and getting your equity out and getting your purchase out of that house quickly was key. So we priced it at a number that was still good, but like you said, the terms wound up being better.
Yes.
Because it's not always
the terms
about
of the
price.
sale ended up making up for that little bit that you think that you might have missed out on.
Yep.
The terms totally made that. If you do the math, it gave us a 1.5 to 2% price increase.
Exactly.
So now we're close to that price that we talked about in the first place.
Again, because it ultimately comes back to, again, we're speaking to the people that are thinking about selling. It ultimately comes back to what you're going to walk away with at the close of escrow.
Yeah,
it's not
all
always
comes down to the net.
It always comes down to the net, because that's the one they write the check. That's the one they wire. They don't wire the commission. They don't wire the loan contingency date. They don't wire the appraisal contingency date. They don't wire the repair request.
Right. And that's exactly right.
The money.
That end result, after all has been sifted through, what's in your, what goes into your bank account
Exactly. And that's
for
why
you to move on, for
yeah,
do whatever you're going to do with it.
exactly. So it would be interesting to almost put, okay, this was the battle plan. This is the net sheet. This is where we're at. This was the one that we resulted in. It would be an interesting compare.
Hmm. Hmm. Very much so.
Maybe.
And you can go, we can go with the smaller ones. I mean, I'm kind of moving forward because I looked at the clock, and when
Yep.
I know you and I have gotten into, and I wish there was a round room of people we had asking questions,
Yep.
because this is the fun part of our job, the fun part. But you can go back to the houses. How many, this 20, 30 houses in the last little bit?
Yep.
And it really does all come down to the same thing we're talking about with everybody. In speaking with people, they'll have an expectation and a desire and a have to.
Yep.
But really, when you get it all down to what it is, it comes down to what's the money that's going to go into my bank account, and how realistic am I on my expectations of what that number will be.
Exactly. And I think the key is, again, this is the big number too, because, when you look at what we've done so far year to date, and we've been, it's been awesome because we've also been recognized as one of the top teams at our brokerage, Urban as Realty, which has over
Mm-hmm.
430 agents. So to stand out against what is one of the top five brokerages in town in both terms of total transactions and total of dollar volume, to stand out amongst that crowd, amongst 15,000 real estate agents. I mean, that's a feather in our cap. And I'm going to, you and I were chatting about this, and I know we're kind of, we've talked about this quite a bit, but just real quick, when you look at these things real quick, so the average days on market of a home in the Las Vegas Valley is 41 days. Our average listings this year averaged 32 days. So we sell a house, we put a house into contract 22% faster than the average in town. And the other thing is price point. We sell, the average sales price is $389. Our average sales price is $439. We sell at 13% higher. And the last number, you and I talked about it. We know it's a seller's market, but our list to sale price ratio is 98.9%, 98.8%, which is higher
Okay.
again than the average real estate agent in the Las Vegas Valley.
That's the pricing, the list to the sale price.
List to sell, yeah,
Yeah.
98.8.
So again,
That's an
there's a
A.
reason for it.
Isn't
Yeah,
that an
that's
A?
a high
Is that
A.
an A?
That's a really good A. Yeah. Uh-huh.
That's a good A.
A personality.
Yeah,
A,
yeah,
yeah. No, that really is. That's and in kind of making that a brief summarizing and summation of it, the answer is our numbers are really good because we do the work we need to do in order for it to be what's
absolutely.
needed to hit the top mark.
Yeah. My mentor used to say to me, Don, don't confuse effort with results. Okay.
Okay.
These are the efforts. These are the strategies. This is why the Cramer Group exists. These are the things we believe in. And then our results show for themselves. So we sell houses faster. We sell houses at a higher price point, and and at a higher negotiated ratio than the average agent in this town. So you have to ask yourself a question: do you want to work with a top team, or do you want to work with average?
Yeah, it's results driven.
Yep.
Everything is results driven, and I think the long term of what we've just talked about goes back to, if we just put a little paragraph together of this whole segment, is this is all the things that go into making us, and in turn you, the seller,
Yep.
or you, the buyer, successful at what the goal was in the first place.
Absolutely.
So we do a good job,
Yeah,
but we do work.
oh,
It's there's a reason that things are as good as they are, and I think the answer is we do know what we're doing, and we are diligent with, we care a lot about our buyers and our sellers and
exactly.
what their goal is.
Exactly. Because of what we do and our results, they can move on to their next goals in a time closer to their choosing, or start implementing it sooner than a list and pray or list and wait, things of that nature. They know, okay, this is when it's going to happen. This is when I can go on to the next thing.
And it's not that we wouldn't do it if that's what they said they wanted.
Yep.
It's just we're going to do the homework to tell them what we believe is the opportunity of the result. In other words, what we believe is going to happen.
Yep.
If we do it this way, these are the opportunities you have for it to stagnate, for it to sit on the market, for it to command what you're asking, yay or nay, not always negative. It's just realistic.
Yep.
And then we go from there. Then we'll do whatever we need to do to try and hit the goal of the person that has said, we want to hire you because we like what you do.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Do you like us? And we're nice people.
Like what you do, and we trust you, and you have a proven track record, and we do.
And we do. Absolutely. So I know we're if people out there tuning into this video have some questions about their property, or kind of about a little more in depth and some examples, we'll link to those on Madera and 30 Plum Hollow, so you all can see some of the photography, see some of the notes, things of that nature, as to what we implemented, also to our videos we've done there, so people can see some of our level of services, because we bring a lot of services and features to the table that other agents don't seem to muster.
Yeah, I think that when you get the two of us plus all the things we bring, it's pretty unique.
Yep.
It's pretty unique.
So, well, I know we kind of got a little long on this. And sorry about the little technical difficulties.
Colleen, sorry.
That's okay. So now tomorrow we're gonna do our, I'm gonna go over our weekly numbers. So that's gonna be kind of interesting. We got our brokers forum here later this afternoon at 1:00. So we're gonna catch everyone up to date as to what's going on in the Vegas real estate market. I mean, we have a sense that it's going pretty gangbusters, but we want to see how it's going across the board. And for those that are tuning in, or for those that have some questions about if they're looking to sell, whether they're looking to sell now, in some cases you may not want to sell for 6 months or a year because of a certain reason. Having that conversation now can be maybe more important than a week or two before you choose your agent and decide to put a sign on the ground.
Yeah. I mean, information is information.
Exactly.
It's key.
It's key.
Yeah. It's knowledge.
Exactly. Because you may want to wait because of X. Go, okay, great. Then we'd suggest, okay, then you want to do some things. I've got some colleagues or clients. I will get a text that say, Don, we are thinking about doing this. What do you think this will affect the value of the home by? And I go, okay, when do you want to do it? Do you want to enjoy it, or do you want to pass it on to somebody else? Because sometimes do this thing now, go remodel the kitchen, enjoy it for 3 to 5 years. Perfect, great. It's a relatively recently remodeled kitchen, and it's going to add value and equity to your home when you're ready to sell it. Versus, okay, I'm going to redo it and somebody else enjoys it.
Well, it's just making sure you're doing something that either is better for you in the future,
right?
And makes a positive impact.
Yep.
As opposed to you're going to spend the time and money on this, might not be the wisest thing to do now.
Exactly.
To accomplish the goal that you have in the future.
Yep. Absolutely.
Anyway.
So thanks everyone for tuning in to today's episode 84 of Coffee with Cramer and Colleen. Colleen, thanks. So you got, I know we've got these couple of escrows right now, so we're going to be kind of hot to trot on moving these along. So we'll probably do some little short videos during the process of it.
Yeah, so. I know, I'm excited for them. They're just, some of them are let's go.
Yep.
So the few that are needing the immediate attention. That's why I keep looking down. So I apologize. I have to make some phone calls.
Yes, so do I. So for those tuning in,
Uh-huh.
if you have any questions about buying, selling, or investing in Las Vegas real estate, we'd love to hear from you. We appreciate you tuning in to Coffee with Cramer and Colleen. And on behalf of the Cramer Group, I'm Don Cramer.
I'm Colleen Schaefer.
And more now than ever, your real estate experience matters. So we look forward to answering any questions you've got. Thanks. Have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye-bye.